In the beginning, all I wanted was money. Like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, right? Like, that'd be so cool. I'm going to tell all my friends I'm a millionaire. Yes. But like, what does that mean? Like, and now I'm like, I just want like a cool lifestyle. I want to be happy. I want to be relaxed. I don't want to worry. I don't want to think about money. Like, I mean, that's like the dream, right? You don't have to worry about money. You just do what you do and you're fine. I just want you to think about money and to like enjoy it and to have fun with it and not be this boring, dry topic all the time. Right. And so I always think of mine as like the fluffy, like dessert. And then like, once you get a taste, you're like, oh, I kind of need like to sustain myself. I kind of need the meat, and potatoes. And then they go to other people's sites and get that.
This is the Personal Finance Show.
Hi, I'm Bo Humphreys, and this is the Personal Finance Show. J Money wants you to know that budgets are sexy. That's the title of the personal finance blog that he started 11 years ago. And even though you may never think budgets are sexy, the point that Jay is trying to get across is that personal finance doesn't have to be boring. In 2008, Jay started posting monthly net worth updates in addition to his regular content. In 137 months, Jay has grown his net worth from just under $59,000 to almost $920,000. And you don't have to wonder how he did it. Just go to Budgets Are Sexy and click on the net worth link. You'll see all 137 posts and can drill down on any one of them. Jay has always been about full disclosure, which is one of the main reasons he still remains anonymous. As we discussed in the interview, I have met him at FinCon, but I don't know his last name or whether his first name is actually Jay or a name that starts with J, and I don't know where he lives. Including Budgets Are Sexy, Jay's personal finance projects have reached over 30 million views. But most importantly, Jay is just a great guy, and we are lucky to have him in the personal finance community. If you like what you hear today, I recommend you sign up for Jay's daily emails. After 11 years and now a father of 3, Jay is still doing what he can to make personal finance fun and engaging. J Money joined me from an undisclosed location in the United States to share his personal finance story.
First things I remember, and I don't know, whenever Nintendo Game Boys came out, so I think that was probably 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. But like, okay. I remember really wanting one bad, and my parents being like, sure, you can get one. And I'm like, awesome. They're like, well, you have to go and get the money for it. And I was like, not awesome. I just wanted it.
Where do you get money? Where would you have even got money?
And I remember like thinking like, what's the fastest way? And and at that age, there's babysitting stuff, there's mowing lawns.
Yeah,
I remember
regular stuff.
Yeah, all the regular stuff you do as kids. And I remember, I remember taking forever. I think it was like, I don't know, $90, which is a lot of money back then, especially when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember doing all this, and I think it took me, I don't know, like 2 years. And of course, 2 years is a long time. And I finally have all this money, and I'm like, I don't want to spend it all. Like, and especially like not on a video game. I mean,
so wait, you saved money for 2 years?
Yeah, it was
Game
like
Boy?
2 years or something. It took me forever. Yeah. And I would do yard sales and sell stuff here and there. But like, that was like the first realization of like, wow, like it took a lot of work to get this money,
Yeah. What an early lesson in like delayed gratification. And then, well, also the whole idea of what the 24 or 48 hour rule that people use, right? If you want to buy something online, you just wait. Well, you did 24 months.
Yeah, basically. This is before the internet, man. This is old school. What's funny though is ironically like a year or two after I had the money, like I found a used Game Boy with like 5 games at a yard sale for like $10. And then I sure as hell bought it then.
Well, that's why. I mean, everybody wants everything new right now, right? And then they'll pay the price for it.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That reminds me. I don't know why. Another thing I really wanted bad as a kid was like Nike Air Jordans. you know,
Sure.
and in school, right? Like that was
Everybody.
the thing. Yeah, whatever you're wearing, that was cool. And my parents were big on to Payless shoes and budgeting. Like they didn't want to spend anything, especially on shoes.
What a great name for a company, eh? It's like,
Yeah, Payless.
I wonder, I wonder if they're going to be expensive shoes. It's not something you would ask.
I know, and I remember begging, like in 6th grade, I was like, Mom, like, I don't care, just get me Nikes. I don't care what they look like. I just cannot be in school like with Payless shoes. I'm going to be made fun of, you know? And now I don't care at all. But back then, you know, that was like the important stuff of life. You know, what are you wearing?
Okay, well, let's jump ahead for a sec. How old are your kids?
6, 5, and then a little guy that just turned 1.
Yeah, amazing. First of all, I don't know how you can do it. My brother has 3 boys as well.
Oh, wow.
It's great. I have a new one of my own.
Hey,
He's
congrats.
just over 4 months, Henry. But
nice.
they're getting to that point where maybe one of them's already in school, right?
Yeah. They're starting kindergarten and 2nd grade here coming up. Yeah.
So what if he said to you, like, I need this newest?
Oh, I'm going to do the same trick my parents did. Great, you can have it. And then when they get all excited, say, now go earn the money.
Is it still like that? Do you know? Are we still? Are kids just still about like who has the coolest things and all that? Nothing's changed, or
yeah, it seems like no one cares, at least at this age, with clothes. But it's definitely things like whatever the newest game is or toy.
Okay,
like we all talk about it, and cell phones. I mean, it is crazy. Some of like my son's friends, they all have cell phones, and of course they're all iPhones, and they're like 6 and 7 years old. Right. And then, of course, it's like what my son wants. Like everyone else has a phone. Why can't I have a phone? And I'm like, I don't even have an iPhone, you know, I have a smartphone, but, you know, but that's like the big thing. And especially when everyone else is doing it. Right. Like it's just so much pressure. And so far my kids are good, but I know like at some point we're going to have the talk, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, and we'll get back to that because I want to know how you're talking to your kids about money.
Oh, sure.
As well. But let's resume your a story about wanting all this stuff and saving so long to get it. So now you're young, and so you ended up getting a Game Boy a little bit later.
Yes.
Do you know what you did with any of that money that you saved? You're like, I want to keep it for something else.
I can't remember. I remember liking the feeling of like, I think like when my bank account went over 100. Like I remember thinking that was really powerful, and that was like the most money I've ever had. And especially when someone says, "Oh, $100." I mean, that's just a lot of money even now, right? Like everyone wants $100.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But like back then, the idea that I would save it and I had it for so long, I don't know, it just felt good. And I think once I got to college, I mean, I was working 3 jobs here and there. And my parents said, look, like I was very fortunate that they paid for my college, and they said, look, we're going to pay for the college. You got to graduate in 4 years. But everything you want to spend, all your fun money, everything like you need to earn, I'm not like going to buy you beer while you're there. And so, I learned to save. I learned to work hard and save all the money. But then I also would just spend it all throughout the year of college, you know, every year. And then I have to re-earn it again and then spend it all. So it wasn't really until like my mid-20s where it finally caught on. Hey, save it, but then don't do the second part of spend it. You know?
Well, yeah. So how were your parents with the whole saving aspect?
They were so good. I mean, they were so frugal. My clothes came from thrift stores for the most part, right? Payless, yard sales. Like we got lots of hand-me-downs. And we were in the military family. I'm one of 3 kids. So we were always moving all the time. And my mom, she worked, but she was mostly stay-at-home mom. And then my dad was off at, 6 months at a time deployed all over the world.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So everything I learned was basically from my mom, and saving money, the value of hard work and all that good stuff. So I'm very, very fortunately raised in that regard.
What does she do for work?
Kids centers, like helping kids, daycare centers and stuff. And it always had to be temporary because we kept moving every year, 2 years.
That sounds like a challenge for you as well then. When did you start getting jobs and earning your own money?
Yeah, I mean, it really was, besides like the mowing the lawns here and there, it wasn't really until I got into late high school, that I started, working, quote, like normal jobs, right? Like restaurants. But I didn't get an actual 9 to 5 until, and probably till my mid-20s, like way after college. I still even did retail and all odds and ends till I got a 9 to 5. And then, I only had a 9 to 5 for a few years. And then I tried blogging, which was all accidental. And that's my new quote, like real job that like isn't real,
Well, yeah. So you said school was paid for, and
Yes.
then you were working. So that you were working these like restaurant or retail jobs during
Yes.
school.
Yeah, I started like after school. So I went to school for business. That was my whole thing because I
Okay,
wanted
yeah.
to travel. My dad's like, hey, do international business. You can
Oh,
travel
okay.
around, see the world. Because I wasn't going to join the military like he did. But I wanted to do something fun. And so that was the plan. But when I got into school, like I got into like graphic design and kind of like artsy stuff, which my parents weren't probably totally thrilled about. But that was like when I really learned that like the world was a lot open than I originally thought. I started hanging out with people that were like, oh, you can do anything you want. There's always a way to get there. And I just didn't have a lot of that growing up. It was like very rigid, like go to school, get a job, like here are the jobs that pay well. And so when I graduated, like I was like, oh, I'm going to move to New York City. I'm going to be like a big, designer. I'm going to go to all the elite parties. Like I was big into like social life and like the dream, and I did. I made it to New York City.
Nice.
I did. Yeah. I had like $2,000, like 2 suitcases. I crashed at friends and, over the course of 2 or 3 years, which is all I lasted there, I kind of got a realization of how important money is and keeping expenses low. And that really kind of changed my mindset a little bit. But when I was there, I was, partying, and I always find a way. Like, it's funny. People say they don't have money for things, but then if you look at the, like drinking and partying, right?
Yeah.
Like people like, oh, I don't have the money. I can't save for like retirement, or I can't save for a new car, but you'll always find them at the bar. They always somehow magically come up with money enough to like do that. Right.
It's micro, like they can
Yeah.
find that money right now, and then they can find it again next week, and they can find it again next week.
Yeah,
but they don't think that they have it.
Yeah, and that like that's how I was back then. It was like I could always like find money to go out somehow, But then I was always playing that game where you get money in your checking account and you send it to savings. But then at the end of the month, you pull it back out of savings and then you spend it. But like, but for like a week, you feel good about saving, like it feels really good. And then you feel this horrible, like, I have to do it again. I'm such an idiot. And he keeps repeating.
Right? Only you got some kind of points or credit for that kind of thing, right? It's like, I did it. I did. Gold star or something.
Oh, man.
What about credit cards? Did you get involved with those around that time too?
So I had my first one that my parents set up or co-signed or whatever, and it was pretty much like emergency only. So I was pretty good there because I knew whatever I put on it, would go back to my parents. And so like I refrained from like going into debt. So, and I've never been into debt. I've never been, again, because they paid for college, and I've always had to earn money in order to spend it all. But I was always like even the whole time up until like my mid 20s. And really it was like a 401k plan. I used work at the startup, and they had this crazy 401k plan that was literally like whatever you put in up to the legal limit of like 16,000 or whatever, like we'll match 100%. And I thought, and I told my dad, and he was like, you are an idiot if you don't put every single dollar in there, and I was like, but
right.
It's like, but it's like 16,000. I mean, it was like $1,000 a paycheck or a year or a month. I mean, to get whatever. All right. Wait, but that can't be right. Yeah. Oh, maybe almost every paycheck. Like it was like a lot of money.
Yeah.
But he was like, but everyone you put, and it was fully vested also at the same time. So if I put $1,000 in my paycheck, it would match another 1,000 right away. Double the money plus, all the compounding. You
didn't have to wait 2 years or something for it to vest,
that's right.
A lot of them do, right?
Yeah, and so I was like, well, how can I do so pretty much for like 3 or 4 months of the year, however long it took me, I would just max it out. I think the most I could do is like 90% of my paycheck. Like that's the most that the computer would let me. And so every paycheck for like the first 3 or 4 months of the year, I got like $90. To live off of. And I had like some savings, a little bit, but I kept thinking, oh, that's like 30 something $1,000. Right. And after that first year or two, like I had 50,000 in there, and I was like, oh my gosh, like that's the most money I've ever had in my whole life.
Wow.
And that was a big thing. And what's crazy is that out of the, I don't know, 20 or 30 of us that was working there, only one other person was doing it. Most people didn't even contribute anything. But that really opened my eyes a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's we have RSPs here, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar thing, or a pension if somebody has a company pension,
Right?
Which is,
we don't know what
401ks
those are over here anymore.
Yeah, well, they're few and far between
Okay.
in Canada now too. You're pretty lucky, and the ones that do exist, like defined benefit pensions,
Yeah.
they're really good. And
Okay.
you just like people complain about how much comes off their paycheck, but oh wow, like you're set up.
That adds
it's
up,
it's
yeah.
it's like better than your 100% matching in the long run.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's really crazy. So yeah, what happens with the 401k stuff has to stay in until retirement? Is that correct?
Yeah, you have to keep it in there. And I think you could like take loans against it and pay yourself back and stuff, but that's all a slippery slope when you get there. But
Oh, of course, yeah. We have a similar, you can borrow for certain reasons,
Right.
school or whatever, but
well, and that's the other part, right? Like I think that's the other thing that I accidentally stumbled across is unlike savings and checking, again, playing that game of transferring money and then transferring out. When it was in it, and I always play by the rules, and so when like money went into my retirement account, like I knew there was no way for me to touch it. Like it prevented me. So there's even when I was living off $90 paychecks and like, oh, like this sucks. Like I just want like an extra 200 or 1,000 or whatever. I couldn't pull from there. Like it restricted. And so now it's been 12 or 13 years since I started investing in my 401k. I mean, that stuff keeps snowballing and snowballing, and yeah, there's going to be crashes and all that stuff. But when you don't touch it, like it's the most simplest thing, like put money away and then just literally don't touch it for like decades.
I know it's nice,
so
right?
Yeah. But
it's
hard.
You only know once you've actually experienced that time, though,
Yeah,
right? It's
correct.
I mean, do you remember? It was probably real hard. You're talking about it now. It's probably hard to live on that $90.
Yeah, it was in the beginning. Yeah, and I didn't have kids, and all that stuff, which obviously is more expensive, as you're probably finding out too.
Yeah,
but
not quite yet, not yet.
But that was the thing. Like once it clicked in my head, I was like, I can survive off of nothing for a little while if I have to, right? And even like I think there was a month where I did put money on a credit card, full well knowing the next month like my paychecks are going to be normal or more than normal, right? Because now I don't have any 401k coming out, so I can pay it off. So like there was times, like I always knew that worst case I can find money, right? Like so, and that's the thing. It forced me to save. And that was a hell of a perk. That perk only lasted, I think, about 2 or 3 years. And our company ended up folding. Like it became a big mess down the road. But that really like opened my eyes to like, well, what other hacks are out there and what else can I do to keep this up? And like for the first time in my life, I was actually excited about personal finance. Right. And that's when I, stumbled across the blogging world and I was like, holy crap, people are talking about sharing their net worths and all the stuff they do, the goods and the bads. And that just like blew me away.
Okay. So you got curious around that time.
Yeah.
So far what I'm hearing a really interesting, picture that's being painted about, you said you play by the rules and, somehow you weren't attracted to credit, probably thanks to your parents.
Yes.
And that like these things combined, plus this like early excitement about personal finance, like, oh wow, like I can put this in and it gets matched and then that grows and I can't touch it and that'll help me in the future. All these things combined just seem to work really well together. And then your realization of people when they're like, I only have $90 to live on.
Yeah.
They're like, well, thank God I have a credit card.
Yes.
That's what they think. But you didn't go there. Instead, you went to, well, this is a challenge.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think I had like, let's say 2,000 in savings. I can't remember. It's been so long, but I had money where I knew like if I could plan it out, like I was trying to figure out like worst case and how this works. And you can also do a lot of stuff very temporarily too, right? Like you could live very sparsely for 2 or 3 months, like if you were forced to. It's not fun, but you can. It's more like if you have to do that way for decades where it gets hard, right? Like that's the hard part.
Well, and it sounds like you were always able to get a job somewhere.
Yeah, I was always fortunate to get a job. And mostly, I mean, it wasn't even my degree. It was, talking to people, networking, and, even going back to like the New York days, like I wanted to like travel the world, right? And I got out of business because I did art. But then I was like, well, maybe if I work for the airlines, right? Like you can get free flights mostly. So I did that for a year and I used that to fly around the world for basically free. I still got paid. Yeah. So like I always trying to figure out like, what's the end goal? Like and it's usually around lifestyle, right? Because that's what at least what I'm realizing now. In the beginning, all I wanted was money. Like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, right? Like that'd be so cool. I'm going to tell all my friends I'm a millionaire. Yes. But like, what does that mean? Like, and now I'm like, I just want like a cool lifestyle.
Nice.
I want to be happy. I want to be relaxed. I don't want to worry. I don't want to think about money. Like, I mean, that's like the dream, right? You don't have to worry about money. You just do what you do and you're fine.
Yeah. It's funny, I'm a personal finance coach. And, I move people in the right direction in terms of what they should be doing or who they should be talking to about their money, right?
Yeah.
So I'll send a lot of people to robo-advisors. I use robo-advisors myself because I just don't, like, I could do DIY investing. It would probably be interesting for me, but I just don't want to go there. Right? Not everybody has
a lot of work too.
The desire or like I don't want to rebalance. Right. Sure, I know how to do all this stuff, right? I also know how to do people's taxes, but I don't do that all the time.
That's a good analogy, yeah.
Right? Like just because you know how to do something doesn't mean you can't delegate it for a price. It's whatever it's worth to you.
Yes.
That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah, and you're right. And people, the first thing they'll say, well, like, why would you pay the $5 a month or the 0.5 percentage point or whatever it is?
That's what they say. That's their argument.
Yeah, that's what they look. And even like here, an app that was really popular for a little while was called Digit, right? You connect it, it saves your money. And I was a fan. I became an advisor to them. Like I was like the number one fan. And I'd get emails like, oh my God. Like I think at one time, like we could track like the referrals. And I think after a year and a half of me promoting Digit, because I was using it myself and I believe in it, like the people that connected to Digit through me, total over a year and a half had saved over, I think it was like $3 million. Like in
oh wow,
like it's a lot of money, right?
Yeah,
and everyone was happy and it was free. The second they started charging, it was like I think it's like $2.99 a month, right? Oh man, the internet exploded. Everyone was bashing them. All the customers, I'm not sad that this is not worth it for $2.99. I'm like, dude, we just saved $3 million and you have $2.99. And like, granted, most of the people complaining like are people that don't need Digit, right? They're like financial experts that can do it themselves.
We have a free financial plan company called Planswell here in Canada.
Yeah,
and it's not like your $3,500 financial plan with estate planning and tax planning and all that stuff.
Right.
Of course, it can't be. It's free, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, but people are analyzing it as if, well, it didn't talk about this thing and it didn't talk about that thing. Look, what did you have before? You didn't have anything.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Now you got a nice framework, right? Which does happen to have the government calculations, which is very important for Canada because we can't use your retirement planning tools. So, the IRS is not the same as the CRA.
Right.
It's very different when you cross a border. So, whenever somebody at FinCon says, "Hey, check out my retirement calculator," I'm like, well, I mean, generally, I can. I'm sure it's fine, but if you don't have Canada Pension Plan and Old Age Security in there,
you can just say, "Hey, check out our healthcare over here," because we sure like to bitch about that one.
Yes, I mean, let's not go there because
okay.
There's because that's one of the things on a lot of the blogs in the States. Yeah. Everybody talks about healthcare costs. And in terms of budgeting too, and you got to pick your plan or whatever it is, and that's like just so it doesn't mean anything to us, right? Like it's just like that's one part that we can't relate to.
Yeah, that's the beautiful part about you guys and really all around the world too. Like the ability to have that and not worry. Like that is a big bulk of what people in our country worry about financially too, right? And people that are sick, they won't even get help. Right, because the whole system is all crazy.
That's the worst part of it. Is if I don't know, if somebody's sick, they should just be able to be repaired in some way, right?
I know. So,
like,
wow, this conversation went down. You invited this guy.
That's why I like leaving it open because we could talk. Okay. But other than the decline of the United States, which we will move on from, I do love the States. There's a lot of good stuff going on there, but there are, it's a big country and you got a lot of people, so of course there's going to be some downsides, just as there are here. I'm sure. I just can't think of them right now. So
I can't hear any Canadians complain about anything. I'm serious. I never hear any complaints over there. Great.
Well, it's because I'm not going to say. I was going to say it's because we live next door to you, but I don't want to start U.S. bashing because
Okay.
there's a lot of good stuff going on there, and I like a lot of Americans. So except for there's just one that I don't like, and you can guess who that is.
You and millions of others. Yep.
That's right, exactly. I'm not alone, so everybody can relate to that one.
Mm-hmm.
So. Okay, so back to you then. You're now excited. You just start blogging. This is around like 2007, 8?
About 2008. Yeah, February of 2008. We had just, on a whim, bought a house, no money down. Like right when the whole the real estate stuff was like all bonkers and everything was rising, and we bought and everything crashed, right? And then every madness ensued.
Yeah. So where are you getting this money to put a down payment on?
Oh, I didn't have to. It was zero. Yeah, it was 0%. That's how crazy it was.
Of course, that's why
I had a job. That was like what qualified me for. I think it was like $350,000, right? Like, oh, you have a job. Here's $350,000. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. How could you go wrong? How could they go wrong giving you that?
And everyone talks about home ownership and how awesome it is, and it's the American dream. And that's like the rite of passage being an adult. Like it's just so ingrained, at least over here. And so I was like, oh, awesome. Yeah, I'll buy it. And I bought it with my fiance at the time. Long story short, like that led me online too. And between that and then investing at the same time, I was like, I got to really figure out what the hell I'm doing with my money, because now I own this house and, I just don't know. I'm just going by the fly. And that's when the blogging stuff came up. And it was really, there's a guy, Jonathan, over at mymoneyblog.com. He was like the first blogger that I really started following, and he's still around. But back then he would share his net worth. Here's my savings. Here's my investment. Here's my debt. Here's what I'm doing, right? Here's what worked. Here's what didn't. And that, for me, I learned like with real life examples and normal people, not like organizations or companies. Not that there's anything bad with it. It's just, it's just not my style. And so like when a regular person was talking to me and sharing, like opening up their finances, which is unheard of, right? Like no one talks about money, and they surely don't give you exact details of what's in their accounts.
Still.
Yeah, still.
Right?
Yeah. And so like when I saw that, I was like, wow. And I was just glued to it, and I don't know, probably after 5 or 6 months of reading blogs, a lot of them were kind of boring, and it was just like a lot of how-tos. I thought, well, like I'm, bored at work. I had a lot of downtime. And I was like on Facebook, or no, back then it was MySpace, if you remember that. Dicking around on there, and I thought, I should do something more productive with my time. And I love blogging. Maybe I'll just start my own blog, right? And I didn't know anything about blogging. I didn't know you could make money. Like I didn't know anything. I didn't spell check. I had grammatical errors. I didn't capitalize anything. All I did was like
you didn't capitalize anything? What is that?
like every time I wrote I or start a sentence, I just excited to never capitalize. Wow. I can tell a lot of new bloggers. A lot of bloggers start out doing that. I don't know what it is, but there's something that like it's exciting about doing that. But then you get all these people emailing you all the time, and eventually like it's annoying and you change, right?
Yeah.
At any rate, I started blogging, and my whole goal was like, let's just talk about money every day. It'll help me stay accountable myself. It'll give me a fun community to talk to. And I don't know, I just thought it was fun, and I thought it'd be a few months long, and usually after that I get bored. But it took off, and I would talk about, saving money, drinking beer, and I would talking about, normal stuff that a guy in his 20s would talk about, but it was always related to money. And that was the one thing I said I was going to do, is I'm going to show my net worth just like Jonathan did, because that was like the most impactful part for me. So if you go back, I've been doing it now for over 11 years straight. I think it's like 130 something net worth reports, but you can see when I first started tracking it, I think it was around like 50,000. Like that was right before 401k was kicking in.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then now it's all the way up. I think it just dropped. I think the highest was a month or two ago, like 930,000. I think now it's like upper 800s, but that's a big difference. And of course it's also over 11 years, which, some people forget, right?
Well, but I mean, 11 years doesn't seem like that long, and you're really detailed with your updates and everything, so that you had to be. It was important to be anonymous then, right?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to. Ironically, like the more anonymous you are, the more you can be real without fear of friends or family. And in my case, my boss. Like there was a time where I was really unhappy at my job, and a lot of this like 401k stuff and other things, like they weren't getting deposited into my accounts. So there was a lot of like illegal, weird, shady stuff going. And I had a platform where I could talk about it. So I did, which looking back is, probably pretty stupid. But at any rate, like I wanted to be anonymous. And now as a father with kids, I'm 100% glad I'm anonymous because there's crazies out there. And I've gotten death threats, which is crazy, right? Like you write about like budgeting.
What?
Yeah, I've gotten death threats of me, my family. Like I've gotten people like stalkers. Like, it's just people are crazy, right?
But what, like for just like totally irrational, like why would they be threatening you?
Yeah, it's hard to get into without going into the details, but they were pretty much good at like whatever, like the scariest words you can use to like,
oh, wow.
It was like a mental kind of thing.
Okay.
It really turned bad when they started, involving my kids or my wife who was pregnant at the time.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. And, and so, and I still, I have my face out there and I still go to events and stuff. So, I'm not like, I'm 100% anonymous.
No, I mean, we've met and right. people know what you look like. There's pictures of you on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't know that if your name is Jay or a variation of Jay or starts with J. So that's pretty good. No one has revealed that to me.
Yeah, that's a good sign so far. So anyways, but being anonymous, I was like, well, I'm just going to divulge everything, right? My thoughts, my money, because the more real, at least to me, the more real you are online, like the more people connect and the dialogues start, right? And it can also backfire, right? There's things I've said that have offended people, and actually over the years, like I'm much more cognizant, like I've learned so much about people and how you can say something and not mean something, but then like people get really upset, so I'd really try to make my site like a positive place.
But you can't control it. People will react however they react.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's how it started. And I was just blogging and then people started following the site and then advertisers were like, hey, we'll pay you money, to give away this or to, do an ad. And I was like, great, I'm doing it for free. Yeah, I'll do that. Right. And then over the years, I eventually, started doing it full time. And now I've been, I think, self-employed for about 9 or 10 years almost.
So what were you doing? So you were saving money from your job. What was your day job around that time before the blog started making you money?
Yeah, I was working at startups doing like technology stuff. There's always like 15 to 20 people there. And in the early days, like ringtones were really popular when cell phones were coming out.
Okay.
So we did like stuff around that. We did like some content stuff. And that's the thing too. Like I was used to, like I'd worked at E-Trade for a little bit, which was a 9 to 5, at least my job. And some other desk jobs. And then when I learned about the startup world, I was like, wow, this is so crazy because it's just a few people like running a business, right? But you learn so much and they're flexible and they have cool perks. And, on the other side, some of the startups crash and burn, right? But that really gave me a taste for like, wow, there's another option out there besides just a 9 to 5. If you wanted to, right? Like you don't even have to. If you like it, that's great.
And that gave you time to blog. And then, so you bought Budgets Are Sexy. Was that the original one?
Yeah, Budgets Are Sexy. I started, by myself. Yeah, it was nothing, and I created it. I started blogging there, and then that became, my full-time salary.
How long did that take?
About 3 years for me to be getting. So I think my first job, or the job that I left, I think I was making $65,000.
Okay.
And then I started blogging on the side, and make $1,000 a month or something. And then I think I got it to around like $40,000 a year. And so when I left my startup job, like my money was cut in half because, I had 2 jobs pretty much. Right. Then I went to blogging and I quickly realized, wow, like my money's dropped, but like I'm also having the dream job of being a blogger, which is kind of cool.
That's it. Right.
Yeah.
Able to do what you want to do.
Yeah. And that was a trade-off that was worth it.
Yeah. And so you're like, it says here, like 20 million plus views, on when did that start?
Yeah, after the first few years, it really started taking off. And also being anonymous, which originally was kind of frowned upon and media outlets didn't, like they didn't really like anonymous people, and blogging like this, not as professional. So they didn't pay attention to bloggers. And then all of a sudden, like blogging became cool and trendy and, Twitter came out and all this stuff. And I got a lot of connection. I got a lot of like picking up in the media and spread around, and that made the site go viral for a little while. So it really took off, especially after like, I would say the 4th year, lots of traffic, advertisers were good. And then I kind of went into like a hardcore hustle mode. And I had a friend that actually ran a finance blog, And he was like, I'm going to go, I can't blog anymore, but I don't want to shut it down because it's making money. And I said, okay, like, what are you going to do? And he said, well, maybe you should buy it from me. And I was like, I'm not like, what? You can't buy us a blog. It's a blog, like, and that was really eye opening, because then I realized that if a site's making money, it's kind of like a business.
Mm-hmm.
So then in businesses you can sell, right? And I thought, wow. So I ended up saying no. And then eventually, like, I bought it from him. And that opened up my eyes. And I'm like, well, can I buy other blogs? And so for a few years, I was buying other people's blogs when they were done, writing. And most people after a year, like, that's enough, right? And so at one point,
I guess so, eh?
Yeah, I had about like 9 or 10, 11 different sites running. And I'd pay writers to write, for them. But Budgets Are Sexy has always been me and my baby. And then and I had kids, and I was like, okay, like, I went from like hustle 20 hours a day, no sleeping, oh, rah, 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 like, I'm the man, I don't need sleep, right? I'm going to build this empire. Again, I lost track of like the whole mission, right? Which is, have a nice lifestyle where you can relax and not work all the time, right?
Yeah, it's easy to get carried away, I guess.
It is.
Right?
And online, it never stops, and you see what your friends are doing. So it's like literally at any time of the day, someone is doing something good, and so you get this competition. And our community is really good, and luckily not cutthroat or anything.
No, but like, there's a lot of blogs out there at this time, right?
Yes.
It sounds like you have a unique way of presenting it. As you said, like, there's lots of stuff out there, but it's all dry or standard, or this is how to save money on groceries, or
right
stuff like that. Was that what you were seeing, and you just like, budgets are sexy, let's do this?
Yeah, it was a lot of the same thing. And even 10 years into it, you see blogs, and they're still right. Money is pretty much the same for hundreds of thousands of years. Like, nothing is like, the concepts are still the same. It's just the way you present it. And and I try my best at least to have fun. And like, my goal is for you to like come to the site and like leave a little bit happier, or like at least thinking about money. Like, I never go in depth with anything. I'm not an expert. I have no degrees. I don't like, that's not like, there's other sites for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just want you to think about money and to like enjoy it and to have fun with it, and not be this boring, dry topic all the time. Right. And so I always think of mine as like the fluffy, like, dessert. And then like, once you get a taste, you're like, well, I kind of need like to sustain myself. I kind of need the meat, and potatoes. And then they go to other people's sites and get that.
That's awesome. But you've become a coach and other things like that as well?
Yeah. Over the years, that's the thing. When you have an audience online, you get to do other things, right? You can coach, you can write books if you want to, you can do speaking engagements. I mean, that was another eye opener for me, is like, once you have your online, like, it's like a resume, right?
Absolutely.
Doors of all these things you can do or want to do, and people come to you and say, hey, like, would you like to do this? And that's really exciting, because any day you sit down, you don't know what you're going to get, right? I've turned down, and again, the hustler in me back in the day I would say yes to everything, like, yeah, I'll write a book, or yeah, I'll do this. But as I got older and had kids, I was like, well, that's not what I want. Like, I just want, in the grand scheme of things, to just do whatever I want to do that day. Right? Maybe I want to work, maybe I don't want to work, but I don't want it to, have to be an issue.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love a whole company of J money coaches, that would be awesome. Right. Cause you would hire people who, have the same philosophy or style as you, and attract those people too. Right.
Yeah. Like, I guess so. Yeah.
Not everybody wants to talk to a suit, or somebody with a designation. I know I don't. Right. And that's why, that's why I present myself the way that I do, because I'm just a person who went through this, and you did the same thing, right? You're just a person,
right? And
you're writing about money, and that doesn't mean that you can't help as much as anybody with a designation.
Right. Well, and I don't know if you get this, you probably do, because I would imagine it's universal. But when I first started money coaching, like, I assumed I'd be talking about money a lot. And It's amazing. Like, the first calls with people, like, you rarely talk about money. It's like, at least, and I don't know if it's the way that I'm like presenting it or
no, it's not about money. You're right.
Yeah. It's all like, it always talks about like, well, what are you trying to do? Like, oh, I'm trying to move, or I want to travel the world, or I want this life doing this. And then at the end, I'm like, well, what does your money look like? And I'm like, oh, okay, we need another call for that, one. That was
Yeah, yeah. We didn't even talk about numbers. No, that's so right. And the funny thing is the investing part and all that stuff. That's just the tail end of it, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I found. And it became like, it was kind of like a therapy session, right? Someone just wanted to talk to someone about this stuff, and then hopefully come away feeling better and some things that they can change, right? And I always like giving people homework. I've never been able to do that before. And then I'm like, I'm going to give you homework. And when we get on the next call, like I'm literally going to ask you, did you do your homework? Right. So It's not surprising. And like, of course, half the time, no, I didn't do it. I'm like, oh man, and most people were good about it. But, there's people that I would talk to. I think the longest client I had was like 2 years. And she didn't really do much of her homework. She just loved to talk about money. And I'm like, I don't think I can literally help you. Because like I don't,
but you are helping. That's what I think. I think by just talking about it, right?
That's all that she needed. Yeah, I don't know.
Because some people just need to nobody's talking to them about money. No, like this podcast, for example, or when you're on with Paula, just talking about money, right? Like that just makes it jogs all the stuff in people's brains that are like, oh, I should do something, right?
Yeah,
and your blog, like that's what it's all about.
Yeah. No, that's the goal. Yeah. I mean, you can read all you want and do stuff, but yeah, the goal at the end of the day is for people to take action. So hopefully, and I think that's the stuff too, like, the more funny you can be online or the more interesting or storytelling. Like I like when people want to tell stories on my blog because that, like, I don't know, that there's something in there that kind of hopefully inspires you or gets you just to do something, right? Like you can't be like, actually I got an email yesterday from someone and we've been emailing, I don't know, 6 months or a year. And there's always all these questions, but it's always around the same thing about investing. And I just told her, I was like, you just need to do it. Like no more reason.
Yeah.
It's better to invest and literally like lose half your money than do nothing because at least you have half your money invested and you learn and you can adapt. It doesn't have to be perfect. And so she's like, thanks. That's like just what I need. I'm going to go do it right now. So hopefully she did. There's almost so much you can learn.
People just wait.
Yeah.
They're waiting for the perfect time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man, that time never comes. That's a hard game right there.
Okay, so to keep going with your story.
Yes.
So you end up becoming, so Budgets Are Sexy is sort of the central thing for you.
Yes. And
maybe the media is coming to you, and
yes,
you're getting all these opportunities, and you can make your money from this.
Yep, that's pretty much. And over the time, and I would start some other sites. Like I started, actually it's still going on. Rockstar Finance was like another second baby of mine that I created. And
yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, to promote other articles. Like the whole theme was, hey, like here's the 3 articles I really enjoyed reading today around money. Pretty much you can just go to that one site and read 3 articles a day. And in my opinion, it was like the best stuff out there, right? And it was always other people's stuff. Like every now and then my own would go in there. But it was like the gems of the other, other people, other bloggers. So you get a real sense of all the different stories and different tips. And that was fun for a while. And I eventually sold it, to save time for the majority. It wasn't making that much money. And that's the thing I realized too, is usually when you start a blog, there's a purpose you have, right? And, for me, it was just fun. It was fun. It was to be productive. It was to learn. It was to hold me accountable. And then when I realized there was money, I was like, okay, that's good. But for the better or the worse, the money was always secondary. Like once I could live off it, like I stopped trying, I guess, for lack of a better word, And so whenever I started a new project, like Rockstar was always for passion or I thought it was a cool idea. So I've never been a good businessman. I'm not really motivated by money anymore. And I think that is because I have like the nest egg that's been saved up over the years, but it's also freeing to know. And I'll get greedy, like if I start getting a lot of money, all of a sudden I want more. Like I can feel it in me, like, okay, I want more. Right. And so like being able to back up over the years and be like, again, as long as I have my lifestyle, then I'm not going to like try and actively just pursue all this money, it won't change my lifestyle that dramatically.
Well, I mean, it's hard. Like in a way, you do have a formula. Like you're being able to buy and build up the blogs and I guess sell them, right? All these other finance blogs.
Yes.
But it's not because it's you and it's community and it's your voice. That would be hard to do. it's not like you can mass produce this.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard the day that I need to do something with budgets because it's so me. And
It is, yeah.
if I
That's you.
like someone might want to buy it, but there's so much risk involved in what happens to my community. They're like, oh, Jay sold out, like I'm out of here, or do they buy it and then do I keep writing and I'm just like a paid writer, right? There's a lot of ways you can do it, but it is different than if I built a site that did not have a voice and, right, which is the more business way to go, right? You want a business that doesn't involve, around one person, right? That's a scalable, sellable thing.
That's what everyone tells me, but
yeah,
I like the community.
Oh yeah,
people like to tell you how to make money, obviously.
right. And unfortunately, like my personal opinion is that like because you can make money blogging, there's so many people that are starting blogs purely for the money. And granted, there's people that also care. But if you look, like when I was, when I had Rockstar Finance, I built a directory, I wanted, the whole point of the directory was to track every single financial blogger there was. Right.
Yeah.
I kept adding it. And I think when I stopped, it was in the thousands of bloggers. And then we built this thing where we could see the feed of all the bloggers. I think you might even still be able to go to it now, but pretty much if any of the bloggers out there publishes a new article, it goes into this feed. So every day you can see I think like on average, 250 articles were made every single day by the financial blogging community. Right.
Okay.
And I would imagine we had like 90% of the community. Like we had pretty much everyone except like the brand new people that we didn't stumble across first. So then my goal was like, well, I want to see what everyone's like writing about every day. And that really like made me happy and sad at the same time because I found a ton of great stories, which then, I got to share with people. But then a majority, like, I don't know, 70, 80%, it was all the same. And it was all the same format that was made in order to make money and to do this other, the other way of running a blog.
Oh, okay.
It really depressed me because, when I started, a lot of people, like, it was all story, right? And there wasn't much of that. There was a little. And so, like, over the years, I've been, jaded by the industry because it is turning, or at least a couple of years ago was going that way. And I don't know, that just made me, sad, right? Because, like, the reasoning behind it was different. And it wasn't to, I don't know, connect and build community. It was like, basically for money, right?
Or to share your story, as you said, in order to try to help someone else who's trying to relate.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, and that's the thing with building it to scale, right? And there are people that can do it both at the same time beautifully, right? There's a lot of people like that, and those people I really admire because they make tons of money, but they're doing it like, in my opinion, right? But. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things, but the whole industry itself, I think, with FinCon, and that's the nice thing about our community is that we all, for the most part, care. I would like to think, and we all we don't. Again, we're not like cutthroat. Everyone's a pretty positive community, which I like.
Yeah, I'd like to think that everyone's best interest is to help people.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's true. But
all the ones you read and we read, right? All the ones you and I read probably are that way.
Yeah, that's it, right? Because if it doesn't appear that way, then I mean, I have my blog investwisely.ca.
Okay.
And I wanted to just present things that other people weren't talking about, right? My early stuff is about how fees are terrible, and my biggest post is how you get a free iPad by opening a checking account. It's not free. Right?
Yeah, right.
You're paying a checking account fee.
Correct.
Right? And you have to stay with the bank for like 2 years or something. If you were getting free banking before, it's not a free iPad.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about all this standard stuff. I want to talk about things that no one's talking about. And therefore, that means I can't really be affiliated with those banks, can I?
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't.
And that's right.
That's right. So if there's two ways, right? You can either write for the financial institutions, or find ones that align with your values. If that exists, and maybe you've been able to find that, or just talk about how to help people, right?
Yeah.
And your story.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people appreciate the story stuff, and I think that's why bloggers do, they don't last that long usually. Like we were tracking that too, and after about a year, if you're not making any money but you're like blogging, most people it becomes like a what is my time worth kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
it does help, if you get some kind of traction, you keep going. And that's why my favorite thing to read is brand new financial bloggers, because they are giving you all their best stuff and they're so real and raw. And, there's like spelling errors all over the place, like, and they don't know what, widgets doing what and everything's wonky, but man, it's like real life,
Yeah. And that's the reason why, when somebody comes to me and says, oh, there's so many blogs out there. Like, where's there room for me? And I'm like, well, nobody can tell your story. Nobody can write the way that you can with your perspective. So do that.
Hell yeah. Yep. And, they were saying that when I started my blog 11 years ago, and I thought that
they did,
I
eh? Oh,
start a blog. There's hundreds of blogs out there, and there's always going to be so many, right? But, even now, as we were talking earlier, right, there's Twitter and there's, all this video stuff, and there's just so many other social media platforms that people I see starting to explore now, right? And so that's the thing. You always hear articles, is blogging dead? Like everyone's moving away, right? But it's I don't think it's a platform as much. I think it's like the storytelling and the connect. Like people want to be connected, and
they say the same about podcasting too, right?
Oh, I don't know. That's crazy.
Yeah, so many podcasts out there. Meanwhile, they probably said that like 5 years ago.
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah. Podcasting was around years ago, and then it I don't know, went away or slowed down. And then all of a sudden, like the last 3 or 4 years, right, like exploded, it seems like.
Yeah, it just made so much sense to do it because I was writing as I spoke, right? So I might as well just start talking.
I'll say this, it's much more fun being interviewed on a podcast than it was for me the opposite way.
Yeah, I remember you saying that in your quitting or the reasons to quit episode.
Yeah. But it was fun to try and to see what it's like to be on the other side for sure. And obviously like you and other people love it. So I think it's great that you're doing it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I blog sporadically now, but I podcast every week. That's my commitment. And like you said, you have to choose. You can't do everything, right?
Well, and the commitment part's good too. I'll say if anyone is wanting to start something, a podcast, a blog, that was probably the main reason I'm still here all these years, is because whatever my schedule was, I forced myself to stick to it because I knew if I'd slip, I'd start slipping more and then eventually just give up. And so back then it was, blogging every single day, Monday through Friday, no matter what. And there was times where I'd go out drinking, and come back at midnight and be like, oh crap, I forgot to do my blog post for the morning. Right. And I would stay up all, 2, 3 a.m. trying to formulate some, cohesive thing. And, it wasn't the greatest, but it forced me to stay on track. And then over the years I went to Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And actually this year I'm back to doing it every single day because the consistency really helps you keep going and you don't get blocked up as much, at least I find. So the having a schedule and sticking to it is a big way to continue with your project.
It's actually pretty impressive. I mean, you can tell you've been doing it for a while, like the kind of content that comes out every day in an email. Whether it's original content from you or aggregation, it seems to be a combination of both usually.
Yeah. I'm slowly running out of things. So I find other people, I'm like, oh, I like that. I'm going to blog about what they said, it helps them too. They get traffic. And, I think that's the key. Again, for me, I just want people to enjoy. I want them to come to the site and leave better than they did, when they got there. Right. That's the point. And hopefully you take action after that.
Well, yeah, and I think people like when you're giving your perspective on something that you're presenting to them. Like if you just were like, here's a blog from somebody, see you later. Yeah. The whole, when I get the emails every day, I guess it is every day. Eh?
Yeah.
Every day, first thing in the morning while I'm driving Uber, it comes in. And it's like it's like, hey, you trust J Money, you're presenting it. And you're giving context, and that's what people want, whether it's you're writing the article or not, right?
Yeah, I try. Well, I'm glad it's coming across that way because that is the goal. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even want to add anything to this. It's so beautiful. I'm gonna mess it up.
But even if you just said that, I think people just appreciate how real it is, and I appreciate that you're. Well, I guess keeping it real is a sentence, right?
Yeah, as an almost 40-year-old now, I feel like that's nice and hip, right? I started in my 20s, and now it's funny. When I started, I had no kids, I wasn't married, and now I've gone through this process. 10 years of your life, right? So much changes. And so it's funny to look back.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's interesting when people have read you. Like I have some people that started in high school reading me, and now they've graduated college, have a family of their own. So it's really cool when people stick around for that long too and go through the phases together. But I don't relate, like, a lot of the people that my original audience, like now is so different, than it was back then. And I feel like I'm an average person, right? Like I don't do anything really crazy. I'm not like an expert in all this stuff. And I think, because my net worth has gone higher over the years, like it turns off a lot of people or people can't relate. And that's probably really, the saddest thing for me. Cause those are the people that like, I still feel like I am, like starting out, trying to learn, getting excited about money, how everything works, that part to me is really exciting. And once you get like your money goes up, you get the people that want to maximize or make more millions of dollars, right? Like it becomes this whole other game. It's just a different, way of doing it. And I'm now stuck in that one and I want to get back to the other one, but it's fun.
Well, I guess that's the pros and cons to sharing your net worth. I mean, if you weren't sharing it, maybe you could still feel more connected that way, or they would feel more connected to you, or you could speak in that same language without revealing the money. But then of course the reason why you have the money is because you've been so successful at speaking to people.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's an interesting
it's a catch-22.
Yeah. And overall I'm pretty happy. So I just go about my business until someone tells me I can't blog anymore or something. I don't know.
I just before I let you go, and thanks so much for giving me this time.
Yes.
I just wanted to talk about all the philanthropy stuff that you've done. I mean, I was part of one of your last Rockstar Finance community things where well, you wanted people to give some money, like $100 or something to somebody, and then write about it.
Right. Yeah. Every now and then I get really inspired to do, like, I'm not really good at giving back in general. Like it doesn't come naturally. And so I have to make like projects or make it a thing in order for me to like push myself. Right. And I've done tricks over the years where like, if someone asks me for money or donate, I always have to say yes. That way it forces me to do it. Like, cause I want to do it. It's just, I don't go out of my way naturally to do it.
Yeah. We all need some kind of push to, for charity. It doesn't seem to come naturally to a lot of people.
That's true too. And also I connect again one-on-one. So like, I'm much more, I would help you as a person. Like if you came to me needing help, like, I would help you in an instant because I can directly see the effects and I like it versus if I give to a bigger company, I lose, all that gets lost. And then I get hit up for more donations and a company and not like a person. Right. And those companies are great. That's fine. But anyways, so over the years I've started projects. The Rockstar one, we did giving cards where in the beginning we'd load $20 on these like, debit cards or giving cards, whatever they are. And we pass them out to people, bloggers and other people that want to use them, but they had to share what they did with them. And that was really cool because it got people to do something good, right? And people do anything from like handing it to someone on the streets to like creating a pizza party or using that money to turn into other money. One person used it and got other people to pay off all the school lunches that were like overdue in an elementary school. Like they just like wiped all the debt out.
Oh, wow.
The next town over, like got in the paper, the next town over said, well, we want to do it too. So they did it. So it became like a ripple effect. It was really cool. And then, so that was a fun thing that we did. And years ago, we had this project called Love Drop, where we raise like $1 or $2 from people every month. And then the pot of money at the end of the month, we'd find someone to help. We'd drive or fly over to where they lived in the country. We kind of surprised them with this big, pot of money and then other stuff that people would make for them or like whatever they needed. One month, someone needed a car to help get to work and someone donated a car to us and we drove the car over and we filmed it all so people could see their effects, right? Like I just gave you $1 today and then in 3 weeks, I could see you giving that dollar or car or whatever to the person, right? It was very connected. And it was micro giving and that was
super cool.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was kind of like the HGTV, like, move that, truck, like where they fix up the house and stuff like that and make this ordeal. And we had fun doing that for a year. That's probably like something that I struggle with the most is like, how can I use this community and our connections to do something bigger and better and helpful like that. Right. And I still don't know what that is, but that's where I'd want to end my journey online, is doing something like that, if possible. Would be pretty cool.
Well, I think you've done some great stuff so far, and it's good to know that you're, that's where you want to head with it, and it's not just, how much money can I have to buy my Lamborghinis and such, right?
That's an easy thing to go down with blogging about money, because like I've thought and talked about money every single day for 11 years, and like and you see that a lot. How do I get more money, right? So it is a tricky slope to watch for, regardless of the path you're on.
So thanks for combining the community with the charity and using it for good. We all need to. Once we're in that position, people, they say they can't relate to you if you have a high net worth, but hey, you're able to help people now, and maybe that'll motivate them to get there too.
I hope so. That would be a really good thing. Our world is crazy. We need as much positivity as we can get right now. So
I know, right? Well, thanks so much for coming on, Jay, and I look forward to seeing you again in DC at FinCon.
Yes, sir, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And that was episode 89 with Jay Money. If you like the podcast and want to see me get to episode 100 and beyond, please support the podcast by going to my Patreon site and becoming a patron. It's only a few bucks a week, but if enough people do it, it starts to add up. So head over to patreon.com/BoHumphreys if you're interested. I am now offering free 15-minute personal finance consultations online. I'm a personal finance coach. So if you're looking for someone to help you get organized, head over to BoHumphreys.com and click on the banner to book a free 15-minute personal finance consultation. We'll chat about your situation, and you can decide if booking an hourly coaching session is something that will help you get moving in the right direction. That's it for this episode. I'll be back next week with award-winning financial confidence expert, CPA, attorney, and president of Financially Fierce, Sonia Smith Valentine.